Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you real plain today. I want to speak about a woman so powerful in her presence, so solid in her spirit, that when she walks out of a man's life, she doesn't just leave a gap, she leaves a lesson. You're the type of woman men don't heal from. And I don't mean because you played games, caused chaos, or broke hearts on purpose. I mean because you loved right, you showed up right, you stood tall in who you were. Some women don't just pass through a man's life, they mark it. They leave something behind that time can't erase and distance can't silence. This kind of woman doesn't need to announce her power because her presence does the talking. She loves with intention, she speaks with honesty, and she carries herself with a quiet strength that settles deep into a man's spirit. Long after the relationship ends, long after the calls stop and the days move on, the imprint of who she was remains. Not because she demanded to be remembered, but because she was impossible to forget. Men don't heal from a woman who showed them a version of love they had never experienced before. A love that didn't come with confusion, manipulation, or games. A love that was steady, consistent, and real. When a man encounters that kind of woman, something shifts inside him. His standards change. His expectations rise. Even if he doesn't recognize it in the moment, his heart knows it has touched something rare. This woman doesn't chase validation. She doesn't lose herself trying to be chosen. She knows who she is, and that self-awareness creates a sense of safety and respect that men feel deeply. She listens without judgment, supports without control, and loves without losing her identity. That balance is what makes her unforgettable. It's not that she tried harder than anyone else. It's that she loved without fear while still honoring her worth. When a man loses a woman like this, the loss doesn't scream at first. It whispers. It shows up late at night when the world is quiet. It shows up when something good happens and she's not the first person he can share it with. It shows up when he meets someone new and realizes the connection feels shallow compared to what he once had. That's when it hits him that he didn't just lose a relationship, he lost a standard. This kind of woman becomes a reference point. Every future interaction is measured against how she made him feel, not emotionally chaotic, not constantly uncertain, but grounded and understood. Men don't heal from that because healing would require forgetting, and forgetting is impossible when the experience changed them. She didn't just love him, she elevated him even if he wasn't ready to rise. And here's the truth that matters most. This woman didn't set out to leave a mark. She was simply being herself. Her authenticity, her emotional intelligence, her boundaries, and her consistency did the work naturally. That's why the impact lasts, because it was real. And real love doesn't fade, it settles. Once it settles in a man's heart, it becomes part of who he is, whether he admits it or not. Men don't heal from the woman who raises the standard of love in their life. Before her, love may have felt optional, convenient, or conditional. After her, love has weight. It carries responsibility. This woman shows a man what effort looks like without making him feel small, what respect feels like without demanding it, and what partnership means without control. Even if he didn't appreciate it fully at the time, the experience stays with him because it reshaped his understanding of what love is supposed to feel like. She teaches him that love is not loud chaos or emotional roller coasters. Love can be calm. Love can be safe. Love can feel like coming home. That realization is powerful. And once a man feels that kind of peace, he spends the rest of his life searching for it again. That's why he doesn't heal. Healing would mean accepting that what he lost can be replaced, and deep down he knows it can't be replicated easily. This woman doesn't argue for attention. She doesn't beg for effort. She shows up fully, but she expects presence in return. Her consistency becomes a mirror reflecting back to him where he falls short, not in a cruel way, but in a way that quietly exposes immaturity, avoidance, or fear. And when she finally walks away, it's not dramatic, it's resolved. That calm exit is what hits the hardest because it tells him she gave everything she had and chose herself when it was no longer mutual. Men don't heal from the woman who loved them with integrity. She kept her word. She matched her actions to her feelings. She didn't threaten to leave to gain control. She stayed until she no longer could. That kind of love forces a man to confront himself. Was he honest? Was he present? Was he ready? Those questions don't disappear with time. They echo. When he moves on and meets someone new, he notices the difference immediately. Conversations feel thinner. Support feels conditional. Peace feels unfamiliar. He realizes that what he once thought was ordinary was actually extraordinary. And that awareness becomes the wound that never fully closes. Not because he wants to suffer, but because growth often comes wrapped in regret. This woman becomes the benchmark. Every relationship after her is compared whether he admits it or not. Not in looks, not in surface attraction, but in how she made him feel about himself when he was with her. Seen, valued, calm, challenged to be better. Men don't heal from that because healing would mean lowering the standard again. And once a man's heart has been elevated, it refuses to settle for less. She changed him by being herself. She didn't lecture him into growth. She didn't force transformation. Her presence alone did the work. That's why even in her absence, the lesson remains alive, shaping his choices, his regrets, and his understanding of love long after she's gone. The deepest impact a woman can have on a man is not through what she gives, but through who she is. Men don't heal from the woman whose character was consistent, whose words matched her actions, and whose love never came at the cost of her self-respect. This kind of woman doesn't perform love, she embodies it. She shows up the same on good days and hard days, and that stability creates a level of trust that goes beyond attraction. Once a man experiences that instability everywhere else becomes impossible to ignore. She doesn't need to compete with other women because she isn't trying to win a position. She already knows her place. Her self-worth isn't loud, but it's unshakable. She doesn't tolerate disrespect disguised as humor, distance disguised as independence, or inconsistency disguised as confusion. And when she addresses issues, she does it with clarity, not chaos. That emotional maturity becomes a standard a man doesn't even realize he's absorbing until she's gone. Men don't heal from the woman who loved them without losing herself. She didn't abandon her values to keep the relationship alive. She didn't shrink her voice to maintain peace. She stood firm, not out of ego, but out of self-respect. That strength leaves an impression because it forces a man to confront something uncomfortable. He realizes that she wasn't hard to love, she was hard to replace. When a man loses a woman like this, the pain isn't immediate. At first, there's relief, freedom, distraction. But over time, reality settles in. He notices how rare it was to be with someone who didn't manipulate emotions, who didn't play games, who didn't make love feel like a transaction. He realizes she gave without keeping score, but she also knew when to stop giving. That balance is unforgettable. This woman becomes the silent comparison in his mind. Every new relationship is measured against the peace she brought, the clarity she offered, and the respect she demanded without force. When things go wrong later, he remembers how she handled conflict with grace. When things feel empty, he remembers how full life felt with her presence. And that memory doesn't torment him, it teaches him. But lessons learned too late still ache. Men don't heal from the woman who made them feel seen without judgment. She recognized his flaws without using them as weapons. She believed in his potential without mothering him into it. That kind of support doesn't disappear when the relationship ends. It stays embedded in his identity, shaping how he views himself and what he expects from love. The truth is, this woman didn't leave scars, she left clarity. And clarity is permanent. Once a man understands what real connection feels like, he can't unlearn it. He can move on, he can build again, but somewhere deep inside, the influence of that woman remains, quietly guiding his heart, reminding him of what he once had and what real love truly looks like. The loss hurts most when a man realizes he didn't lose a woman because she stopped loving him, but because he failed to protect what she gave. Men don't heal from the woman they mistreated, misunderstood, or took for granted, especially when she stayed longer than she should have. This kind of woman didn't leave at the first sign of trouble. She tried, she communicated, she hoped. And when she finally walked away, it wasn't impulsive, It was exhausted resolve. That realization becomes heavy because deep down he knows the ending was avoidable. At first, a man may convince himself that the relationship ending was mutual or necessary. He distracts himself with freedom, new attention, and surface level excitement. But time has a way of stripping away illusions. Eventually, the noise fades and the truth shows up. He remembers the nights she waited for effort, the conversations she initiated, the patience she offered while asking for the bare minimum. And that's when regret begins, not dramatic, not public, but deeply personal. Men don't heal from the woman who loved them through their flaws while still holding them accountable. She didn't excuse bad behavior, but she didn't shame him either. She believed growth was possible, and that belief made him feel seen rather than judged. Losing that kind of acceptance is painful because it's rare. Many people tolerate flaws. Few encourage growth without control. When he realizes she was one of the few who could do both, the loss becomes permanent. What haunts a man is not her absence alone, but the awareness that someone else will benefit from the lessons he learned too late. He knows that the next man will receive a more healed, more confident, more self-aware version of her, while he is left with the regret of not being ready. That awareness stings because it highlights the cost of his choices. He didn't just lose her, he lost the chance to grow alongside her. Men don't heal from the woman who walked away with dignity. She didn't curse him. She didn't destroy his reputation. She didn't beg him to change. She simply chose herself. That quiet strength is unsettling because it removes excuses. There's no villain story he can tell to avoid responsibility. Her silence becomes louder than arguments ever were. This kind of loss forces reflection. He starts noticing patterns in his behavior, the moments where he chose ego over effort, comfort over commitment. And while reflection can lead to growth, growth born from loss always carries pain. He may become better because of her, but the irony is that she won't be there to see it. Men don't heal from this because healing would mean fully forgiving themselves. And self-forgiveness is hard when the evidence of what could have been lives permanently in memory. The love he lost becomes a reminder not to punish him, but to teach him. And lessons that come with regret don't fade easily. Healing becomes impossible when regret arrives too late. Men don't heal from the moment they finally understand what they lost, because understanding changes everything. At first, loss feels temporary, like something that can be fixed later with apologies or time. But there comes a moment of clarity when a man realizes the door didn't just close, it locked. Not out of anger, but out of self-respect. That realization carries a weight that doesn't lift easily. This kind of regret isn't loud. It doesn't show up as dramatic heartbreak. It shows up in quiet comparisons and private reflections. He starts to recognize that the love he lost wasn't common. It wasn't something he could simply recreate with someone else. She gave him patience without enabling, affection without dependency, and support without control. Those combinations are rare, and rarity is always felt most when it's gone. Men don't heal from the woman who held them down instead of holding them back. She encouraged growth without pressure, believed in his potential without excuses, and stood beside him without overshadowing him. When she left, she didn't take love with her. She took the environment that allowed him to thrive. And once that environment disappears, everything feels harder, success feels emptier, comfort feels incomplete, even progress feels bittersweet. Regret deepens when a man realizes she didn't leave because she stopped caring. She left because she cared enough about herself to stop accepting less. That truth is painful because it removes the comfort of blame. He can't say she gave up too soon. He knows she stayed longer than she should have, and that knowledge settles into his conscience like a permanent echo. Men don't heal from the realization that someone saw their best self before they did. She loved the version of him he had the potential to become, not just the version he was in the moment. Losing someone who believed in your future more than you believed in yourself creates a unique kind of H. It's not just loss of love, it's loss of belief. Over time, this regret reshapes him. He may become more attentive, more present, more emotionally available. But growth doesn't erase memory. Improvement doesn't remove the sting of knowing that the woman who inspired the change will never benefit from it. That irony is heavy because it means the lesson was learned at the highest cost. Men don't heal from this kind of loss because healing would require going back in time. And since that's impossible, the only option is to carry the lesson forward. The love he lost becomes a silent guide, influencing his choices and reminding him that real love doesn't wait forever. And that reminder, once understood, never truly leaves. A woman who truly knows her value doesn't just affect a man's heart. She changes the way he understands life and love. Men don't heal from a woman like this because she doesn't come into their world to be temporary. She comes as a mirror, a lesson, and a turning point. Whether he keeps her or loses her, he is never the same afterward. Her self-worth is not rooted in arrogance or pride, but in clarity. She knows what she deserves, what she will tolerate, and what she will never accept again. This woman doesn't demand to be respected. She expects it. And expectation carries a different kind of authority. She sets boundaries without drama, communicates without threats, and walks away without revenge. That combination unsettles a man because it leaves no room for excuses. He can't blame her emotions, her reactions, or her behavior. All he is left with is himself and the truth of his choices. Men don't heal from the woman who chose herself without bitterness. She didn't leave to punish him. She didn't leave to teach him a lesson. She left because staying would have meant betraying herself. That decision carries power because it is rooted in self-love, not anger. And self-love is contagious. Even in her absence, it forces a man to reflect on how little he may have valued himself and the relationship. What makes this woman unforgettable is not just how she loved, but how she left. She didn't burn bridges or destroy memories. She carried herself with grace even when she was hurting. That dignity becomes haunting because it proves the relationship didn't fail due to chaos or toxicity, but due to unreadiness. And unreadiness is hard to forgive yourself for, especially when the opportunity was real. Men don't heal from the woman who showed them that love doesn't require self-sacrifice. She proved that you can be deeply committed without being self-abandoning. She loved fully, but not blindly. She gave generously, but not endlessly. That balance becomes a lifelong standard. Every future relationship is compared not out of obsession, but out of awareness. Once you've experienced healthy love, unhealthy love feels impossible to settle for. Her absence becomes a quiet presence in his life, not as pain, but as perspective. When faced with choices, he remembers how she valued honesty. When tempted by convenience, he remembers how she valued effort. When conflict arises, he remembers how she chose communication over chaos. She becomes a compass even though she is no longer beside him. Men don't heal from the woman who awakened them emotionally. Before her, feelings may have been buried, avoided, or misunderstood. With her, he learned vulnerability, accountability, and depth. Losing someone who introduced you to your emotional self feels like losing a part of your identity. You don't just miss the person, you miss who you were becoming with them. This woman's impact doesn't fade because it wasn't dependent on proximity. It was rooted in truth, truth about love, truth about self-worth, and truth about timing. She didn't force change, but her presence made change inevitable. Even if that change came too late, it still came because of her. Men don't heal from this kind of woman because she doesn't exist to be forgotten. She exists to be remembered as the moment everything shifted. Not a mistake, not a regret, but a revelation. And revelations stay with you forever, shaping who you become long after the moment has passed.